So define allows you to gather information specifically to your customer and then reframe the problem into an outcome that they would prefer. That's the key bit with define. At the end of understand, so your empathy maps, all the types of customers. Defining, you're gonna go one customer persona and then exactly what motivates them and demotivates them. What is the outcome they wanna have? And this is gonna lead you in to the where. Where on their journey are you gonna help them? You've got your why, Simon Sinek style at the first episode. You've got your who now. You just defined your who, that's who you're gonna serve. Now, where are we gonna serve them? And this is where we look at the customer journey map. These can be as simple, if you look at the Surge canvas, you'll find the Surge canvas has literally 3 cars. Before the event, and after the event, or it could be extremely complicated, where you record all the actions, questions, problems of your customer. I actually like to start off really simple. I like to go before the event, during the event, and after the event to start with. And that allows me to define the problem very quickly. But as you get to know your customer, you're going to build this out. And this is where the customer journey map comes in handy. This is not a product map. A product map is something you draw underneath. So you have your customer journey map up here, say 3-4 stages, gets out of bed, bumps their toe, gets a plaster. The problem they have is bumping their toe. Give them some slippers. That's the customer journey map up here. Down here is all about the product map and how you impact your customer. So you may have develop and supply slippers, supply aftercare, all these things are underneath. If you have a customer journey map that's all about your product, it's not a customer journey map, it's a product map or a product journey map. They sit underneath. You want to link those problems to your product map. We don't go through that in this course, but if you think about it in terms of there are 5 or 6 stages in a customer journey map with 2 pain points and your product solves both of them, you want to know how to create your product all the way to the end life of the product. And these areas here, they solve these problems. You want to know that, but it's not as important as the customer journey map. The idea of the customer journey map is to understand the journey of your customer and where are the points of pain. This allows you to understand which geographical location they're in, which industry they're in. Does it impact them across every country they're in? Does it impact them every day? Is it just Fridays? You want to understand that customer journey map and then the pain points, and that drives you into what your problem is. So we got why do you exist? Who do you serve? This is the where. This is where you want to play. You could look at things like SWOT analysis or PESTLE, all these fancy strategic management terms. Really, you just want to understand what the problem is, where the problem sits, and what are the alternatives. So the customer may actually go, okay, I got my plaster as an alternative hitting my toe, right? So that's an alternative market. Blue ocean thinking will teach us, okay, if hitting your toe this is a really bad example. If hitting your toe was the pain, the plaster is the alternative, blue ocean thinking could be along the lines of, no one else is doing gel-covered sleep slippers, right? So you'll kind of want to, oh, this is a terrible example, but I hope you get in the drift. There is never one answer. There's never one answer. There's always a spectrum of answers. And if you're ever in a product think tank or a startup think tank, you'll get polarizing views. And it happens a lot, especially during C-suite meetings. The CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, and the Chief Operating Officer will normally argue over 2 specific solutions, fixing the same problem, hopefully, same outcome. And this is what I find puzzling. If it's both going for the same outcome, why not combine them? But normally there's a polar opposite. But my example to this is to ask people, This is to help you understand it, but also if you're ever in a conversation with two people on opposing views, you can cut it and say, hey, this seems like polar opposites. How do we come together? Here's an example. Who wants 100% tax? No one will raise their hand. Who wants 0% tax? There's always one person raising their hand, and there's probably one person on this course already raising their hand. But reality, there's somewhere in between. So black and white answers is math, and this is not objective science. It's not human. Solutions is all about human interactions, empathy, and a good way of doing this is to go, okay, that's your solution, fantastic. What are the positives of both solutions? What are the negatives or limitations of both solutions? Cool, how do we encompass both of these? Are there any constraints to just combining them? Oh, there is. If I was to remove this one feature, would this now be the same? Bring them together. Combined solutions are far more powerful than polar opposites. And then we get into ideate. So we've gone through and we've spent a few weeks empathizing with our customers. We've chosen the persona that makes sense for us. And in organizations where you've basically got a program up and running, this should be a lot faster for you because you're normally just going to go find the customer segment that your strategic people should already have. If they don't have it, then please prod them, get one. You're going to bring the customer in, go, that's the customer we're serving. Where? Well, we're mapping out their current state, their current customer flow. Then we're going to map what their future one could look like through ideation. Right? So we've got a customer and where we're serving them. We've got what our problem is to solve. We've got a problem statement now. Again, if you look at the Surge canvas, you'll see that the problem statement is on the top right-hand side. Now we've got our problem to solve. We're going to rock into the fun design studio. Brainstorming's great, but I like this, Design Studio. And if you want to download this, you can get it from the course guide, or you can go to agilewill.com. He does a whole bunch of these drawings that are wacky, and they're free for everyone to download. I think he's just testing out his fun drawing skills. So ideas can be big or small. They must fix the pain point from your customer's point of view. Don't throw away any ideas. Okay, ideas are mental if you throw them away because you're just wasting time. This idea, 20, 30 people, I find quite crazy. I prefer about 10 to 15. 20 to 30 needs facilitation skills galore, because people are just going crazy. But let's go with 20 people. It's better than brainstorming. Everyone has an idea, even shy people. It's about communication and collaboration. This is actually really good for team building as well. I don't enjoy this when it's fake. So you can do it team building with fake solutions, but just get a program up and running, throw 20 people in the room with the right skills, and let them have it. They'll have a great time. They'll come together better, and you'll get some brilliant team building activity and some amazing solutions. Everybody is creative. If you look at some of the videos I've put on your course lesson, you'll see that everyone can be creative. Okay, so what we do, we're going to split into groups. Okay, 4 or 5 people groups. Of those groups, you're going to basically make sure they're cognitively diverse. You want diverse people. There's not same thoughts going on. You're going to sit alone. You're going to grab a piece of paper, draw squares, and have 4 ideas. On these 4 ideas are just rapid ideas in like 5 minutes to fix the problem. Okay? Fix the problem, rapid ideas. You're going to present your ideas back. You can present one idea or all 4, but you have 1 minute timeline. Every person will give their 1 minute pitch basically to their fellow people, their fellow 4 or 5 people. And then 1 minute of questions. They're going to critique you. I always liked, what did I love? What did I like? What did I long for? That kind of response. That's quite constructive criticism. You're going to go back and you're going to re-look at your ideas, take the feedback you've got and redefine them. Okay? It's okay to steal ideas. In fact, stealing ideas is quite fun. I'll steal someone else's idea and I'll improve on it. Present them back again. Get some Q&A. You're then going to sketch one idea up, okay? So put all your ideas up on a board in your 4 or 5 groups, right? And then use a dot voting system, right? Once you have the best idea and negotiate, maybe create a new idea, like go that one's really cool. Why don't we combine it for something even better, right? I recommend you don't vote on your own idea as well. It's better to choose someone else's idea. You're then going to present to the other groups these ideas. Okay, so you've chosen one idea, and so there's 4 or 5 groups. You have a presentation on these ideas, and then you're going to get questions from them and things you never even thought of. And you go, wow, I didn't even think about that. That's a terrible idea. And you're going to discuss what's good and what's bad. I don't like the word bad. Limitations is better. Okay? That's kind of the end of this. But what you end up with is 4 or 5 brilliant ideas that you can prioritize. So this is designed for startups and for design thinking sessions. But we're talking about this from an end-to-end point of view. We've gone why. We've gone who's the customer, where, what the problem is. This is now how. How are we going to solve the problem? Right? So we've got how, 4 or 5 good ideas. Now, how do we prioritize them? This is one of the biggest problems I see in organizations. How to prioritize. And it shouldn't be that complicated. So I've come up with a method for you that you can take, manipulate slightly, and use in any organization to prioritize your ideas. So if you think about this, what I'm trying to come across with you is that you may have a whole bunch of strategic initiatives. And on one initiative, you may have a budget of $5 million. And on that budget, you've now got 4 ideas that may fix the problem. Of the ideas, which one should you do first? You may even use this for actually prioritizing your strategic initiatives. This is what I created this for a large corporate entity to prioritize their 300 strategic initiatives. And it allowed them to say, okay, well, we can only do 9. So which 9 should we do? All of them, they're all important. Okay, but which one's the most important? And we use this to basically create a priority list of 1 to 100, I think we started with. The first important thing to realize is, are you maintaining your product or organization? Or are you changing it? If you're maintaining it, then it's more important. If you don't maintain your bank license, you're going to lose your bank license. But maintaining your products and your current stream is more important than changing it. There are obviously some extreme examples that may come up. So I don't want to have a hard and fast rule, but let's go 90% of the time, maintain is more important than change. When you're changing something, because we've got our why statement already, it's our vision, is it strategically aligned to your vision? No, then we're going to trash it. Simple as that. And by trash, I mean you put it in a trash list so you don't ever lose ideas. And then we're going to monitor it in types. The most important and the biggest amount of work you'll be doing in an organization is maintaining and operating your organization. The next most important thing you're going to be doing is continuously improving your organization. Now, what is continuous improvement? Continuous improvement is lowering your maintenance cost. So if it's taking you 50 FTE to maintain your company, the whole point of putting some money and time aside for continuous improvement is to reduce from 50 FTE to 48 FTE. And that's not to mean to actually remove 2 FTE. It's so that 2 FTE can now actually do things cool, some new stuff to make more money, or to make your customers happier, or to make your employees happier, to achieve your business outcomes. The highest priority is at the bottom. The lowest priority is your new stuff. And that may hurt you to hear. But when we look at business outcomes and competitive advantage, we cannot increase our technical debt, increasing our maintenance cost. You will price yourself out the market eventually. So once you've got that, stage 1, 2, and 3, now add some points. 0 points for new stuff, 50 points for continuous improvement, 100 points for maintenance, right? You then have values. So you've got your why statement. I want you to think of what do you value? Do you value money? Is it all about money to you? Is it stakeholder returns? Is it happy customers? I would recommend that, but it may not be. Is it cutting costs? Are you becoming a lean organization, driving your competitive advantage to a commoditized asset? Are you all about sustainability? And now you need to weigh them up, because you're not going to be just one of those, are you? You're going to be like, oh, we're mostly profit driven, but we're also sustainability and we're also customer. Okay, we're everything. We're everything, Michael. What's the big deal? Okay, but are you 50% cash flow, 30% customer happiness, 20% sustainability, 10% cutting costs? Mathematically do it. 0.5 and so on. So when you're looking at the benefits, you can then go, okay, customer engagement scores up by 10%. Awesome. 10% would equal this much revenue. Awesome. And you start bringing it together. So what's your weighted average on all of these? Once you have your weighted average, you think about capacity. I would love it if you were structured in a way that you didn't have to worry about capacity, but most of your organizations will have capacity problems. So what you want to do is look at all the people required to do your strategic initiatives or your solutions. Every team needs to give their capacity for development. What does that mean? It means that you ask them, how much capacity on their triangle do they have? Maintaining is 70%. Okay, you have 30% capacity. Size the initiatives based on relative sizing and understand dependencies. You're never going to know exactly how big something is, but you know how big something is compared to something else. Oh, I've done that before. It took me roughly 4 months. So I'll say it's exactly the same size as that one, roughly. Or it's a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. Prioritize based on skills, timings, and total value. Focus on delivered value in a time period. Remove any dependencies that cannot be resolved. So let's say you have 10 strategic initiatives and you have enough capacity to do 4 of them. But 2, 3, and 4 are actually dependent on this one team that's overprescribed. You want to renegotiate those priorities to get the biggest bang for buck in a set period of time. And this is why I recommend 90-day strategies. What can you complete in 90 days? Okay, break it down. Look at the dependencies. How much skills are involved? If that team is constantly overprescribed for work, you need to hire more people like them. Or you need to focus on initiatives that don't rely on them. Otherwise, these people over here are doing nothing, while this team over here is like snowed under. Okay? So a quick one on relative sizing for those who don't know. What's the biggest thing here? A space shuttle. What's the smallest thing? A skateboard. Is a tricycle bigger or smaller than a skateboard? It's bigger. Is a car bigger or smaller than a scooter? It's bigger. Relative sizing. You could use Fibonacci numbers, you can use dogs, you can use this emblem here. We're gonna do 3 trains this year. Okay, there's capacity for 3 trains. It just helps you relatively size them, and that allows you to move into more a mathematical approach. You need objectives, a customer, a way of measuring, skills required. We're talking about what the problem is now, not how they're going to solve it, right? Or from a strategy point of view, this is all the hows, not in what way they're going to solve it. So, sorry, a little bit of complication there. You want one backlog. It increases productivity, it reduces confusion, and ensures the highest customer value is the focus. If you don't focus on one backlog, you're going to have inefficiencies in your process. It's a lot easier if you want 3 backlogs to split all the people into their own backlog, and they don't touch. They're not dependent at all. If they're dependent, like a shared service unit, you need one backlog for everyone underneath them. And this is why companies that are not structured for customer service or customer experience will have to have a strategic initiative backlog for the whole organization. Where if you're structured around niche customer segmentations, you would have the ability to have separate backlogs. But most of you won't have that. So I recommend one strategic initiative backlog. And therefore that one project has all the skill sets. If you have shared services, then of course you can have to roll it up even further. So have a go at your own organization right now and look at there and go, okay, well, at the moment there's budget for every, the CMO's got a budget, the CMO's got a budget, but we're all using technology. So they've got their own strategic initiative backlog. Crikey, what would happen if we had the same backlog and we use this method to actually prioritize it properly? So the technology actually didn't have so many buffer problems. Because there are projects, there are initiatives you can do that don't require technology. There are initiatives you can do that don't require operations. And that's where you reprioritize based on capacity. So type, values, capacity, this will give you an objective number, especially if you use a number for all of these. So you do 0, 50 points, 100 points for type. You can do a weighted average ratio for values. You can have capacity. I've had organizations that have also added risk in here, right? So if there's a risk factor, then you get a risk factor points and so on. So an example of this, Daisy works in finance and wants to improve her invoicing processing. Currently, it takes Daisy 2 minutes to process one invoice. She gets 3,000 invoices a month. Daisy estimates her time is worth 50,000 a year, and the company values initiatives by return on investment, money only. Just to simplify this a little bit, her team has estimated to automate all letters cost 50K. So when we think about this from the priority point of view, she estimates the time at 50K and she'll get 50K back in the first year. So over 3 years is an ROI of 3 to 1. It sounds pretty good. But her team realized that 80% of the invoices are from one supplier and that a macro costing 10K could actually fix that. But it would mean the other invoices would still cost 50K to fix. The total solution would be 60K now. So most program managers will say to you, well, I'm not spending 60K for all of that. I'm here to tell you, maybe you should think about it. And here's the reason why. If you split the initiative, well, do you think you should? So there's your 200% ROI over 3 years. Okay? But if we split it, there's a 1,160% ROI and a minus 52% ROI for the rest. Why would you not split it? Now, I get why you wouldn't split programs of work, because you may not actually do it, and therefore your job's at risk. And this is where safety is so important in an organization. You need to make sure people know that you will still have a job even if we don't do 80% of this work, because now we can put you onto more important things. And this is also the problem when you have everyone put on a program of work and actually only the first couple of features are actually positive ROI. I've been doing this now for 12 years in the project space, and I would say at least 80% of projects that I've been on waste money through this exact example. The first release would be amazing. The ROI is great. Every subsequent feature has a negative ROI after that. And I was a business analyst 12 years ago. And I used to say this, close the project, close the project, close the project. But there's 100 people in this program stream, Michael. If we close the project, we need to get rid of 100 people. I'm like, oh, well, you're paying them to do negative ROI stuff. Can't they do something else that's more important? No, they're cost centers for this. And this is where you in finance need to jump on board and say, well, we'll give them another cost center code then. These are great people, great IP. Let's get them doing something even more important. And this is where we talk about the transformation in finance as well, a little bit later. So, you've gone through your 4 or 5 solutions. They're sitting there. You've You're going to value map them across the cost and time, and up here at value. You have a baseline. There'll be a baseline return in your organization, and it's normally like a bank return rate, something like 3 or 4% currently with low interest rates. And they're your projects, or these are your strategic initiatives. Doesn't matter how you can use this at an organizational level, at a business unit level, or even at a team level. Map your value against your cost time. Now, if they're all the same relative size, which ones would you not do? You definitely wouldn't do that one, would you? It's got a huge cost and time and the least amount of value. But you also wouldn't do this one either. Why? Yep, it's below the return on investment from the bank. Why do a project if your ROI is less than the amount that you've agreed you can get from a bank? You might as well just not do it. Take less risk. So which one would you do first? Yeah. Highest value, lowest cost and time. And then those two, and then so on. What I like to do is draw a little line. See the arrow moving up there? I'll draw that line, and I will only even look at the projects above that line. As the cost and time goes out, it's actually more risky, and therefore you usually get a higher return for risk. And most financial analysis models will talk about the same thing. Well, I find it interesting that we don't talk about this in our strategic initiatives or our projects, but we talk about this at a financial markets point of view. So I find it really strange. And this is why I'm saying to you, if you ever think that finance won't love agility, show them this. They'll love you. To get the highest ROI for the lowest amount of risk, they would love it. Cool. For this to work, everything must be visible. You can't have things hiding. People hiding work is one of the worst things you can have in a transformation. They need to be safe to come out and say it. And if you say to them, but you can do that, that's totally fine. And then slowly bring them around to not doing it. If it's the least important thing, we need to not do it. People love their work. People want to do what they think's the highest value. First stage is getting everything visible, and then it's prioritizing it. So you may have all these strategic initiatives in your organization, and they may look great, all prioritized, ready to go, but all your teams are 80% maintenance. Why? Because they're keeping their own projects aside. Cost centers won't cut it. They'll still hide the money. Everyone does. Remember what I said at the start of this last episode? You want to trust your people, or they'll find ways around it. So, don't know if you can see the guy. He's right there. So, in design thinking, it's helped us create our who, our where, our what, and our how. But design thinking is not just about creating a whole bunch of solutions. We need to prototype it so we can test it. And this is where Eric Reins from the Lean Startup comes in a lot. And we'll go through this in the next lesson about Lean Startup. But prototyping is really, really important. And it can be as simple as a post-it note. I got told once of a major bank here in New Zealand who, instead of going through all this very expensive testing, drew the app layout on a piece of paper and went outside and asked people where they would press. And the feedback from that saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not only from doing the study, but the developers, the actual technology developers went out and talked to customers and said, where would you press? What would you do? What color would you prefer? A prototype does not have to be a fully functional item. It is a minimal viable product. A minimal viable product is about testing a hypothesis. It's not minimal viable delivery. If you look at the back of your workbook, you'll find that I've defined it very clearly. The minimal viable product is about hypothesis testing. What you deliver to a customer to buy is not an MVP. So all this fear, people using MVP to mean that we'll just do the basic quality and then we won't do anything else. No, you do the highest items first. You don't have stage 1, 2, and 3 of a project. They're features pretty much. And you may do feature one, feature one, feature one, feature one, feature two, unless something more important comes up. With prototyping, it's simple. Test your hypothesis on a prototype. Make something. Would you buy this? It's clay model. Whatever makes sense to you. You want to gain empathy to get a deeper understanding. It explores, it tests, it inspires communication. I've been in many situations where we've developed products. So I used to own a butchery, and we sold to supermarkets and Qantas and all these other companies. And we created almost fake meat products to test with people. And you couldn't buy them because it was illegal, but I used to put them on for sale, and so you would pick them up and why they picked them up. The author of the 4-Hour Workbook, Tim Ferriss, put the same fake copy of books on the shelf in a bookstore and sat there and watched to see how many were picked. When we picked them up, he'd have to apologize and say, "Oh, sorry, that's actually an empty book." There was nothing inside them. He hadn't even wrote the book yet. He just chose the cover and how it would sit on the shelf. And that was a prototype to see if people would actually buy his book. Okay? From a flavor point of view, in my butchery, I'd have some charcuterie, and I'd have free samplings. What did you think of it? What would you pay for that? Is that nice? Prototype. Yeah, so you can do Lego, you can do marshmallows, there's a whole bunch of fun stuff you can do. If you look online about prototyping, team building activities, there's quite a bit. Again, I like to focus on real stuff, not on fake stuff. To try to have some real customer prototypes going on as opposed to fake. I'd rather you go out and talk to fake customers than talk to each other in a fake way. So if you're on a leadership camp and you're doing prototyping, leave the room and talk to real customers. Testing, talked about this already. You can do some fake acting, assign the roles, host narrates, actor is the customer, observer for feedback, prepare the experience. A lot of people do like shows. What I like to do, especially if I'm in the testing phase, you go through the prototyping, you've talked to customers, it all looks pretty good. I'll create like a narrative show of some kind and video it, put it on YouTube, and then send it out on Facebook and see what kind of responses I get. Yes, everyone laughs at us. That's fine. We got really good feedback from customers that way, and it's been great. People do scripts. I don't prefer scripts, but you can do a script if you want to do a script. But the idea is really to present these findings back to your fellow people and to somehow get it in front of a customer. So let's say you do a design thinking session over 3-4 weeks. You found the customers, you invite them back in 3 weeks' time. In 3 weeks' time, you've done all this extra work, they've come back in and you do the present and show back to them. And you show them the prototypes, you're showing them the scenario that they go through. Do they empathize with it? Does it hit home for them? If not, you have missed the mark on the problem you're solving, or it's the wrong type of customer. Need to know why, who, what, and how to get here. Awesome. So that's design thinking in 1 hour. Ooh, a lot to take in. Feel free to watch it again and watch some of the videos in the course lesson guide as well. You can spend months doing design thinking for your organization. I like to think of it as going out and doing something. Act first, sense the responses, and then respond later on. Okay, so it's a real complex beast, and that's how I like to react on design thinking. The main things I want you to get out of this is, did you define your customer, who you're serving? Where are you gonna compete in this market? What problem are you gonna solve? And how potentially could you solve that and then prioritize it? Okay, have a look at the Surge Canvas as well, because it has it all in there as well. I'll put another lesson next. Next lesson will be on the Surge Canvas and how to use it. Cool, thanks very much.